What's going on, everybody? It's Aurora coming at you with a brand new video, and tonight we finally got some more stuff revealed after literally an exact month of waiting for new stuff to be revealed, and that is the new Dragon Tail archetype coming out of Justice Hunters. Now, Justice Hunters is, of course, the next deck build pack that we are getting, the last one being Crossover Breakers that gave us Malice, Ryziel, etc. And I've had a bunch of mixed reviews on this on Twitter. I haven't really spoiled myself for like any effects or anything yet, but I have seen a lot of people say it's really good. I've seen a lot of people say it's really bad. So we're just gonna jump right in and see who's actually right. So starting off, we have Dragon Tail Lucius. It is an Earth spellcaster level 4, 1800 attack and 700 defense. You can only use each effect of it once per turn. On summon, you can add one Dragon Tail monster from your deck to your hand, except Lucius. And if it's sent to the graveyard as a material for a fusion summon, you can set one Dragon Tail spell or trap from your deck. Pretty solid card overall, it looks like. It's a Stratos on summon, of course, but also being able to not only chain block something that might have an effect on fusion summon, but also being that it sets instead of adds, similar to Malice White Rabbit, means that it is very, very good for dodging things like hand traps such as Ash Blossom, because setting instead of adding is really good. Next up, we have Dragon Tail Femena. It's a water spellcaster, level 5 with 1300 attack and 2500 defense. You can only use each effect once per turn. During the main phase quick effect, you can discard it, fusion summon one dragon or spellcaster fusion from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. And if it's sent to the graveyard as a material for a fusion summon, it also sets a spell trap from your deck. So another really good card, it looks like. Same second effect means that you can consistently do similar things over and over between all your different cards. But I also really like that it is a quick effect during the main phase, not your main phase. And I really like seeing decks that are able to play on the opponent's turn, as long as it's something like super crazy. Like, admittedly, let's be real, Havness, especially when they also got tier cash, was pretty silly. But I've never really minded being able to interact with your opponent in Engine. Things like Edgem Scythe being one of the first ones to really do that was really, really good. I really like Edgem Scythe. And I think this can probably end up doing some really neat stuff, as long as the fusions themselves aren't super broken, or we don't have anything super crazy that we could make on the opponent's turn anyway. So, admittedly, you have to use other things in your hand as well, or hand or field, so technically you don't have to use this, which is a bit of a good thing, bit of a bad thing. Bad thing because obviously that means you need 2 more things in your hand, but good thing because, I mean, hey, if you draw the Dark Magician, maybe you can make Dragoon. Moving on, we have Dragon Tail Parn. It is a Wind Dragon level 7, 2200 attack and 1700 defense. You can only use each effect once per turn. If it's sent to the grave as material, it is the set thing as well, but it also says you can destroy a monster on the field after, and if a face-up fusion you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can place this card on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, special summon one non-fusion Dragon Tail from your graveyard. This card reeks of searchable or sendable one-of, like if you can fusion summon from deck with like a branded fusion or something for this archetype, this would be like peak for it. But I do like that it does the same thing as the lower levels, but by being a higher level, it gives you the benefit of additionally being able to non-target pop something. Really solid removal there. And the second effect can be really good at helping extend. Admittedly, it only works on opponents destroying it, which could be annoying if you wanted to synergize with something that allows you to destroy it. Something like a Frightful Whale, for example. You could like destroy your own thing, and then destroy an opponent's thing, and then trigger this. That'd be really cool. But it is overall a pretty solid looking card, but again, kind of reeks of like that one of that you really don't want to open, but it's not like the worst if you do. Our final main deck monster is Dragon Tail Olgra. It's a Fire Dragon level 6, 2400 attack and 1000 defense. You can only use each effect once per turn. It does the send thing as well, but instead of destroying a monster like the other one does, it destroys a spell or trap. And if it's in your graveyard, you can target a spellcaster Dragon Tail monster in your grave, place this card on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, add that monster to your hand. So this reminds me of that one White Forest monster, but like slightly different because it special summons itself instead. But I do like that this allows you to add back something like your Femena, or I guess it also adds Lucius, which is really good. Being able to add back your spellcaster ones is pretty solid, and of course, they're most definitely getting more down the line that you could have as targets, so being able to be really good recursion is pretty cool. The first fusion is Dragon Tail Altharian. This is the one on the cover, I believe. It's an Earth Dragon fusion, level 8, 3000 attack, 2500 defense. It requires one Dragon Tail monster and one or more monsters in the hand, and you can only use each effect once per turn. If it's fusion summon, you can target monsters on the field and or in any graveyards up to the number of monsters it uses material from the hand and return them to the hand. And if 2 or more monsters are sent to the graveyard at the same time, while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So the first effect is pretty cool, especially in combination with Femena being able to return your opponent's stuff. Returning from grave to hand is a little interesting because that's kind of like worse if using it on the opponent because they can just get the thing back to their hand, unless it's something very specific that they want in their graveyard instead. But it is still pretty solid removal, especially because they probably have a back row that summons out on the opponent's turn as well. But again, being able to use it off Femena is really cool, because, I mean, Femena plus basically just 2 monsters in the archetype is really good to make this. The only complaint that I have is while the second effect to summon itself is really cool and something that fusion decks would actually kill for, being able to summon something back if you fusion summon, basically. The problem is that its first effect says if it's fusion summon instead of if it's special summon, and I don't think that it would be too broken if it just said if it's special summon, because we have so many cards that do that and more, and they pay off your mortgage and they file your taxes. Like, I don't think it would have been too egregious to say if it's special summon you get to use the return effect, but maybe it's a little too good if we go into the next fusion monster. I don't know. Let's go ahead and check it out. Next up we have Dragontail Grammel. It is a water spellcaster with level 7, 2800 attack, 2800 defense. Requires 1 Dragontail monster and only 1 monster in the hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. When you activate a Dragontail card or effect, quick effect, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it, and if 2 or more monsters sent to the grave at the same time while this card's in your grave, you can special it by banishing it leaves the field. I like this one a little bit more because it's like really generic. It's not like immediately on summon, so you can time it a little bit differently, and because you can still use that first effect if you summon it back later off the second effect, as opposed to this one only being on fusion summon. So overall, I think I like Grammel a little bit more, even if this one is more removal, and I do like that neither of them are negates per se, but they focus on being able to have more interactable, well, interaction. You know, I've always liked archetypes that do that a little bit more, and I appreciate that that seems to be a little bit more so of the route that the game is taking outside of random things such as the Azamina stuff. Their first spell is K2 Dragontail. It's a normal spell that says you can only activate 1 per turn. You add 1 Dragontail monster from your deck to your hand, then if your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion summon a dragon or spellcaster monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. Being Aurora on a spell card is always really good, but being able to also use this as a fusion spell is pretty neat. It's also pretty good, I suppose, into something like a Nibiru if you're able to afford it going first, but it definitely seems like it'd be better going second, being able to immediately fuse, though you can always just add Femena if you don't want to immediately fuse anyway, because she'll allow you to do that regardless. And their other new spell, or I guess spell in general, the whole archetype's new, is Rahu Dragontail. It's a normal spell that says you can only activate 1 of it per turn. Fusion summon 1 Dragontail fusion from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, deck, and or field as material, but you cannot summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn after it resolves except fusion monsters. I don't think anyone's going to really complain about a branded fusion for a fusion archetype, regardless of if it locks you. Also, it's interesting that it locks you only into fusions instead of just dragons and spellcaster fusions, so you might be able to actually synergize this with a few different archetypes. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but I know they're reprinting Edgent Chain randomly in this in this deck build pack, which is funny because all the Frightfurs are fiends anyway. But definitely something to think about. I think it's really cool having branded fusions in any fusion deck, especially because, again, the 2 high-level monsters just like completely gave the vibes of being able to be used from deck, so that you can just play only 1 of them without breaking. Their first trap is Dragontail Horn. It says you can only activate 1 of it per turn, and you target 1 attack position monster, return it to the hand or extra deck, then you can place 1 Dragontail card from your graveyard or banishment on the bottom of the deck, except Dragontail Horn, and draw a card. Pretty decent removal, though it is kind of annoying. It only works on attack position monsters randomly, so you can't hit like a defense position fusion or synchro or Xyz that your opponent makes. But it does allow you to not only remove something off the board, but also recycle a Dragontail card from grave or banishment, and then being able to draw a card. And that's also really good for your fusions if your fusions get banished after reviving themselves. So that can also draw you into hand traps, something like a Femena, so that you can use it on the opponent's turn to fuse. Really solid. And their other trap card is Dragontail Flame. It says you can only activate 1 per turn. Target 1 face-up spell on the field, negate its effects until the end of this turn. Then you can place a Dragontail card from your grave or banishment on the bottom of the deck, and then draw 1 card. So the same effect as the first one for the second part, which again, really good at drawing you into non-engine, or even just follow-up cards. But the first effect, again, kind of falls in the same thing that Horn does, in that it's a little bit specific, but I mean, being able to negate a spell is really good. A lot of decks would kill to have something like this, and being able to stop something like a Dark Ruler or a Talents, Thrust, Droplet, whatever, always feels really nice. So that's going to be it for the new Dragontail archetype. What do I think about it? I think it's definitely got a very solid base. I really like the fact that they all get to set your things when they're sent to the graveyard as fusion material, being able to either extend your plays or set up disruption, and it's super simple disruption too. You don't have to like control one of the dudes, which I've always found really annoying, that sometimes your opponent can just shut you off entirely by removing your dude from the board, and now all your back row's dead. I like that they do fall under the sort of like like turn zero play style, quote unquote, but they're not going to be consistently doing it all the time, and when they do, they're not going to be doing anything super crazy to my knowledge. Even if they don't summon their own things, I don't think there's anything ridiculous that doesn't, like, that you can summon in the dragon or spellcaster category that doesn't require opening very, very specific cards. And I do like, again, that the higher levels are easily cards that you can play at 1, but have upgraded effects compared to the low-level ones. They have a lot of recursion, I really like their removal, and I really like all their back row, because while they are hard ones per turns, you can easily cycle through literally all 4 of these in one turn if you fusion summon with all of your dudes in the same turn. It looks like they've got some decent consistency, they've got some really cool end board pieces, all while seeming not super oppressive, and I think that if this card, or if this archetype, sorry, gets more support, especially in the form of more like spellcaster main deck monsters, maybe one more big main deck monster, and like one more really solid fusion, especially like a consistency piece, like we've seen a lot of fusion decks get, I think this could easily be a topping or tiered deck. I think it definitely has a very good base for it, but I don't know, that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below, because that's gonna do it for the video. If you liked it, please leave a like, as I'll split this video and the channel into the YouTube recommended, and if you like content where you like it, like the rest of my review series, and perhaps consider subscribing and turning on notifications if you haven't already, because support your channel or anything else, and it's absolutely free. Also, we're free financially while getting some awesome perks in the process. Check out my Patreon down in the comments, or down in the description below, sorry, to see what you can get for my $1 and $5 tiers, such as access to my PNGs, early access to videos, and of course being able to choose what goes in the polls for Sleeper Sunday. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.